Hello and welcome to Inside Music. As always, I'm your host, James Shotwell, and it is great to be with you. My last guest of 2020 is none other than my good friend Pablo Alvarez from the band Good Bison. And if you're unfamiliar with Good Bison, don't worry, you're going to have your chance to get familiar because on January 21st, the group's latest EP, Scattered Storms, will be available everywhere. And you can check out the lead single, You Can't Predict the Weather, right now on all streaming platforms. Now, what I love about Pablo and his music is that it's unpredictable. He makes music that speaks to where he's at in life at the moment that his creativity is sparked, and it results in some really cool content, which we're going to talk about here on the podcast. We also get into marketing during the pandemic, the growth of his work as a musician, and much more. But before we get there, I need to tell you a few quick things. This episode of Inside Music, like every episode of the show, is brought to you by Holix, the music industry's leading promotional distribution company. Now, what that means is that Holix helps record labels, independent artists, and more share their new and unreleased music with members of the press. To learn how they do that and get a free 30-day trial, visit Holix.com today. That's HAULIX.com today. I also want to recommend that you head over to YouTube and check out our channel. It's called Music Biz. That's Music B-I-Z. We just crossed 2,000 subscribers, and we'd love to add you, so check that out. But right now, just sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Inside Music. Start at the very beginning. Pablo, how is your day going today?
My day is going pretty well. I woke up really early and took my dog for a walk, had some breakfast, normal Tuesday stuff.
Yeah, it's the Tuesday before Christmas when we're talking now. This will come out, I guess, the Wednesday before Christmas, but people may listen to it in the future. So, what is your week shaping up like? I don't even know actually where you're located. So tell me that. Tell me how the week's going for you.
So I'm in Los Angeles right now, and unfortunately won't be getting together with family this holiday since the COVID crisis is kind of out of control, and it's particularly here in LA, numbers are just like really spiking. So I'm probably going to be having a quiet Christmas at home, but still trying to stay connected with everyone as much as possible, given the circumstances.
Well, that's good that you're being safe, man. Is this your first Christmas away?
Yeah, so I typically go to Colombia for Christmas. That's where my entire family lives, except for my mom. My mom lives in Miami. So pretty much every Christmas, my mom and I go to Colombia and spend it there. Before that, we always spent Christmas, just her and I in Miami. But so, yeah, this is one of the first Christmases that we won't be doing that.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I guess that's what a lot of us are going through this year. But that leads us perfectly into a good question. We're here at the end of 2020, a year that most of us would probably like to forget, but never will. We'll just talk about it until we die. So how has the year as a whole been for you?
I would say it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I started the year with a lot of things to look forward to. I had been organizing these monthly events that I was hoping to continue this year. Basically, I would get local and touring up-and-coming musicians to perform at different venues around Los Angeles, and did that almost every month in 2019. So I was really looking forward to continuing to grow that this year. And I also had a bunch of fun things that I was going to do lined up. I was going to go to Coachella for the first time. I was so excited to see Rage Against the Machine. and Frank Ocean. Like those, it was honestly going to be like a dream come true. I was going to go to My Chemical Romance reunion. There was just so many things that didn't happen, and so obviously at the beginning of the year, it just kind of I got into a bit of a funk because I wasn't able to organize the events that I had been organizing. I wasn't able to do the things that I had been planning. And so I lost a lot of motivation. I didn't really know what to do. There was a song that I had written in January, and I hadn't done anything with it. But then when the quarantine and everything started, I was like, this song is weirdly relevant. It's called Nowhere to Go. And the hook is basically just, I've got nowhere to go. And I was like, I can't believe I wrote this in January before I knew all of this was going to happen. So around May of this year, I started finishing up that song and was able to release it. And that's kind of what then sparked me into wanting to get back in the studio in a more serious way and trying to think of what the next moves for Good Bison were. And luckily the second half of the year has been just really focused with working on new music and this release, and everything's been going really well. So I'm glad that I've had that to push me forward.
Absolutely, man. I've really enjoyed the music that I've heard off the upcoming EP, Scattered Storms, due out in January 2021, which is why we're talking here at the end of the year. You know, most of the music industry takes these 2.5 weeks off, but here we are promoting your new music, and the single, Can't Predict the Weather, almost also oddly timely for the age that we're living in, even though maybe it's not the weather we can't predict, though it is raining in Michigan today. So I guess a little bit that's also true. When was the material for Scattered Storms put together?
So there's songs on Scattered Storms that I've been working on for a couple of years now, and there's songs that are brand new from the past few months. So the whole project is 4 songs. 2 of them are things that I had been working on for a while, and then the other 2 are brand new that were born once the project was already taking shape. So I'd say it's the culmination of a couple years of work, but the actual process of getting it made started, I would say, towards the end of summer, and finished recording probably in October, and then the final production and mixing and mastering happened in November, and even up until early December.
So this is really of the moment, but also a little scattered in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I love the single, like I already said, Can't Predict the Weather. There's a visualizer on YouTube people can watch right now. It's a real fun little looping clip of a skateboard being broken. Tell me about that song, because when I first heard it, I was like, this feels like something born in the 90s, but given a little bit of a 2020 twist.
Yeah, so Can't Predict the Weather that's one of the new songs that came about in the past few months. The guitar was written by Mauri, who I've been making music with since I was 17. He sent me the guitar riff, and when he sent it to me, he actually had labeled it Can't Predict the Weather. It wasn't there wasn't any lyrics or anything, but I immediately was like, I love that title and I want that to be the name of the song. Usually I don't have the name of the song going into it, so this was a bit backwards for me. The writing process was really simple. I once I had those first lyrics, which is, yeah, I know I should have said less, but I felt that pressure building in my chest. It kind of just all started coming together for me, because that's usually the most difficult part for me, just getting it going. I wouldn't say that I was going for a 90s sound intentionally, at least, but I was definitely trying to make something that wasn't guided by what was coming out right now. So I wasn't trying to make a song that sounded like what's playing on the radio or what's at the top of the charts, even though I love a lot of that music. It just wasn't necessarily what's been speaking to me in the past few years. I got really inspired by 60s and 70s rock. Like I say I discovered, even though it's something that came out in the early 60s, but Pet Sounds was probably the biggest inspiration going into this project. And Brian Wilson in general, I just fell in love with all his work. And I got to see him live last year, which was an incredible experience. And ever since then, it's just really shifted what I wanted my music to be. I stopped worrying so much about trying to fit into the current landscape, and I decided I just wanted to make something that could hopefully stand the test of time.
Well, I think that you're closer to that mark than most artists this year because of the relative disposability of a lot of music that's being put out right now, being made for this moment and kind of strictly to exist in this exact moment. You definitely seem to be digging into something a little bit deeper, a little bit more lasting, for lack of a better word, off the top of my head. I would also like to talk to you real quick about the last song. So it's a 4-track EP. Can't Predict the Weather, Black Garlic, Lunatic, and then it ends with Since I Left Miami, which I assume is at least tied in some part to your youth because, you know, as you just told us, your mother is still in Miami. So can you tell me about that song? Is that an older one, a newer one? Where's it come from?
Since I Left Miami is a bit older. It's actually the first song that I ever wrote on guitar. Because I got into music just writing lyrics. I never really played any instruments, and over the past few years, I've been trying to learn to play guitar. I'm super sloppy, and I don't sound great at all, but you know, I can play a few basic chords. And so, Since I Left Miami was the first song that I wrote on guitar, and the chords came to me first, and it was the first time that I felt like I was conveying emotion with an instrument rather than with my words. And it was almost like the words were born out of the chords that I was playing. I didn't even write the lyrics down on a paper, which I have so many notebooks just filled with lyrics, and these lyrics aren't written anywhere because they just came to me while I was playing. And it was honestly weird how easily they flowed. And I had never written anything like that. It felt very different from the stuff that I had worked on in the past. So yeah, that was the first song that I really worked on like that. And when I was writing it, I wasn't in a great place mentally or emotionally. I was kind of unmotivated and questioning a lot of the things that I had done pretty much since leaving Miami, because in Miami I was in a bigger band. It was called Dinosaurs and Disasters, and we had toured the East Coast. We had played all over South Florida. We had bands that came to our shows and knew our songs. And then I moved to Los Angeles, and it just kind of felt like all of that fell apart. And that's where that song comes from, and that's why it's, you know, since I left Miami, I've grown tired, I've grown weak, because it was just that was how I felt like. But at the same time, it's still kind of hopeful because it has that turnaround where it's like, I'm gonna get my money right, which was definitely inspired by Can't Tell Me Nothing by Kanye West. So yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, I think that that's probably my favorite track on the EP. I like them all, but that one, there's just something about it, and maybe it's because of like the way it was created that it feels so personal, and you can kind of sense that it flowed out of you when you were writing it.
Definitely. I remember I showed that song to George Spitz, who is the producer who worked on the EP, and he he had listened to a lot of my music in the past because he's someone that I look up to and I admire. And ever since I first heard his music back in, he was in a band called Llama Beats, and
Mhm.
I remember when I first heard them in Miami, I was like, what the hell? Who are these guys? How are they making this stuff that sounds so good? And in a lot of ways, it felt like what I was trying to do, but maybe hadn't perfectly accomplished. So George is someone who I shared a lot of my music with from that moment, and he always uh, liked what I was doing. But when I played him since I left Miami just on acoustic guitar, he was honestly kind of speechless. And then when he did find the words, he was like, I this song is special, and like it feels that this is the music you were always meant to be making, and you're not really worried so much anymore about trying to rap or trying to do this or you it just it he was like, I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. It feels inspired by hip hop, but also inspired by the stuff that I was listening to in the 90s and the early 2000s. And he was so excited about it that it gave me a lot of confidence because, like I said, I had never written a song uh, from scratch. So hearing him just be so passionate about something that had come out of me naturally, I think that was a sign to me that I was moving in the right direction. Because, like I said, I really respect his opinion, and I think he's someone who knows what he's talking about. He's worked with not just Slightly Stupid, but a bunch of incredible artists. So that was a special moment for me.
Well, that's great to hear, man. And I think people are going to hear how special this whole thing was when the record comes out in January. Now, something that we ask every guest lately, especially those who have chosen to put out music during this crazy time, is what the experience has been like of trying to figure out how to market a new record when you can't just go on the road and, show it to people in the classic way of performing it. So, what's it been like figuring out how to navigate this uncertain time as an artist trying to promote something?
That's an interesting question because I feel like I have never promoted or really pushed any of my music the way that it deserves. So, what I mean by that is, I always put a lot of time, energy, money, whatever into the writing, recording, mixing, mastering. It's really important to me that the music sounds right and that I get it at the highest level possible. But I've never really put that same effort into the post release part of things or even the lead up to a release. Um, I did, for example, I released a mixtape in 2017 called That's Bodie. And I mean, I say the only thing, but I guess it's a pretty big thing. But the way that I decided to promote that was I did a live stream with Super Deluxe where I broke the Guinness World Record for the longest freestyle rap by just rapping continuously for 26 hours.
Hmm.
So, but then after that, I didn't try to promote the fact that I had just broken a Guinness World Record, or I didn't try to promote the fact that I had just released a mixtape that I was really, really proud of. I just kind of put it out there and and shut down. So going into Scattered Storms, one of the big things for me was I want to put as much effort into the promotion and marketing of this project as I do into the creation of the music, because it's not fair to the music that I don't finish putting in the work. So one of the big differences for me in this project is that I've been working with a visual director, Crow House, and they've really, really elevated the level of the presentation of the music. And what I mean by the presentation, it's everything. It's the cover art, the visualizers, the videos, Instagram. We've put a lot of work into making sure that the images and videos that are coming out of this project are perfectly aligned with the music, and that they're all pushing the same message, and that they all are at that same level of quality that I strive to reach with the music. So, for example, with the Can't Predict the Weather visualizer, that is the first of a series of visualizers. Every song on the EP is going to have a visualizer. And there's a music video for the next single that's going to come out. And it all kind of conveys the same emotion and meaning that is in the music, which is basically enjoying the good times, but not letting the bad times knock you out, and appreciating the bad times, because at the end of the day, they're all part of the journey. And also, that's what the upside down smiley face, which is now Good Bison's logo and this EP's logo, that's what that represents. It's just kind of a way to remind yourself that even when things seem really bad, there's hope, and there's the potential that things will get better. So that upside down smiley face, I think, is super representative of the vibe and emotion of not just this project, but Good Bison in general, where a lot of the times the music feels upbeat, it feels happy, but the lyrics are a little darker or more melancholic, for lack of a better word. So it's a really roundabout way of answering your question, but I think the promotion and marketing, especially in this day and age, is so focused on what people are seeing, because it can't just be what they're hearing. So much of media consumption right now is it's multimedia. It's no longer like you could just put out a song. Even on Spotify, you have the Canvas feature where it's a moving picture, and visualizers, which they're not full music videos, but it's better than just putting up the cover art, or more entertaining, more captivating. So that's what I've really tried to do with this project, is make sure that we're being as engaging as possible and maintaining that vision.
No, I think that's a good answer, man. I appreciate the insight. Now, we're a little bit out of time here, but I do want to give you an opportunity to, if you had to talk to somebody that's never heard of you before this podcast, or maybe hasn't heard the single, and they want to know why this record is something they should check out at the top of the year when Scattered Storms arrives in January, what is your quick pitch to people who maybe are unfamiliar with what it is you do?
I would say that this project and Good Bison in general is a blend of so many different genres and eras of music and so many different influences, but none of it feels forced, and none of it feels unorganic. It's just a very honest authentic representation of who I am, the music that I like to listen to. I really hope that when people listen to my music, they feel like they're hanging out with me. I'm a easy guy to get along with, so it's not so much about trying to make people fans. It's about trying to grow a family and develop a community and just really show that we're all in it together.
I love that answer, man. And I think that you're definitely forging that with this release. Again, for everyone listening, it's called Scattered Storms. It's out in January, and you can check out the single, Can't Predict the Weather, right now, YouTube, Spotify, all the different places that you listen to music. Pablo, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I hope you have a wonderful holiday despite all the differences, the unique situation of the year, and I'm wishing you the best in 2021.
Thank you so much. I loved speaking to you. Super happy to be a guest on your podcast, and happy holidays to everyone listening, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you, man. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, man.